Local programming on KRWG made possible in part by viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to Fronteras, Changing America. I'm Edmundo Resendez. Most Americans take for granted the opportunities they have regarding living arrangements, jobs, and other aspects of everyday life. For many Americans with disabilities, however, barriers in their communities take away or severely limit their choices. WXXI's Sasha Ann Simmons has more on how the reality is slowly shifting.
Oh, look where you're going. Nice job.
This little guy has come a long way in the last 2 years.
Very good.
The 4-year-old is learning to walk on his own in physical therapy sessions at CP Rochester.
He's very close. He's starting to take some steps. He wears a brace on one of his legs.
Therapist Karen Terp and her student intern Sarah work with the boy on weekdays. To help with his cognitive challenges, the center provides him with special education and
because of the involvement that he has in his hands, an occupational therapist helps him learn how to do things more easily using his hands. You want to jump?
Naturally, instructors use play and lots of toys when training the preschool students. Kids with special needs are integrated with their typically developing peers. Those are children who don't have any identified special education or physical therapy needs.
Walk over to the bridge. We try to make everything fun for the kids because that's how children learn.
The goal at CP Rochester is for the students to eventually be able to attend regular classes and ultimately live independently when they become adults. And so the boy can live more comfortably at all times, Terp has made arrangements with his mother and modified his home. And additions like door alarms and locks, wheelchair ramps, and shower chairs can be all the change a caregiver needs to get a little relief.
If you're a teenage boy, you don't have to have your mom come in and give you a shower.
We have lunch.
We do.
We do a checklist.
Where are we going at 2 o'clock?
Scaffold.
Parents and support staff who care for 36-year-old Adam Jokimiak say the TouchStream Solutions tablet has been a game changer. For 2 years, the monitoring system has helped him organize his daily activities and manage his medications.
It helps me stay on track of where we go. And
just 24 hours after he was born, Jokimiak suffered a massive stroke and lost the functioning of about a third of his brain. At 13, his mother decided he'd need the extra support of a group home. He's lived in homes in Utica and Canandaigua, but as Jokimiak grew older, he got tired of his living arrangement.
So what was it like living with a bunch of other people?
it was crazy.
Yeah, tell me why. Why was it crazy?
We had people going everywhere. And
now it's been 5 years since Jokimiak began living the independent life he's longed for. He's got the keys to his own apartment.
I have a kitchen, bedroom, bathroom, living room.
My vision for him was that he would be a contributing member to his community, to this world. I didn't know what that would look like for him because he gets to call those shots.
The customized TouchStream tablet keeps the family connected in real time. Jokimiak and his caregiver Jeff can use a web portal to input important reminders and activities. The simple touch of a button and a text message lets everyone know that Jokimiak has completed the task.
Correct medication. Are you taking this medication?
The tablet system, manufactured in Rochester, costs a one-time purchase fee of $250, and the monthly subscription, which includes a data plan, is priced at $60. TouchStream won't be covered by your health insurance, but through the Office for People with Developmental Disabilities, there's a program called Self-Direction that can help you pay for it.
Self-Direction provides a budget to hire your staff and purchase other goods and services that help your child or whoever do what they need to do to live a life that works for them.
Our roadmap for TouchStream is very much dictated by our customers. They say we want it to do this, they say we want it to do that, and that's truly what our development team works to put on the roadmap and to develop.
Susan, appointment with doctor.
So we have, hey, don't forget, it's Mom's birthday. Don't forget to bring a card to dinner tonight. You know, it's your anniversary of, being 3 years out in the community. Whatever's important to the person.
But systems like TouchStream won't solve everything. For one, Joe Kimiak's family wants to see medication dispensing get better in line with the tablet.
Adam still, even though he's prompted to take his medications, so he still has to go into his case, pour out his medications, and kind of do the weekly setup that you see like in the pill container boxes.
Still, these types of modifications can mean a good night's sleep for caregivers who selflessly give their time and effort to ensure a quality life for a person living with a disability.
They have to give up control to this person, but they still want to know that things are being handled in a way that's going to keep this person safe.
Sasha Ann Simons, WXXI News.
Mr. Mark D'Antonio is a Third Judicial District Attorney. D'Antonio was elected by the citizens of Doña Ana County in 2013 and re-elected in 2017. D'Antonio is the Chief Law Enforcement Officer for Doña Ana County and Chief Prosecutor. Mark D'Antonio is our guest today on Fronteras, Changing America. Mr. D'Antonio, welcome to Fronteras, Changing America. Happy to have you back.
Thank you. It's great. Always great to be here.
Let's talk about what's happened since 2013 when you were first elected to the office. What changes have occurred?
A lot has happened, a lot of good stuff. Given the ever-changing climate in our local law enforcement community, vis-a-vis the national average, we are doing very well here in Doña Ana County. You know, this last few months especially have been filled with turmoil, filled with accusations against police officers and people of high officials. But here in Doña Ana County, we have really maintained a very good working relationship with the community and law enforcement with the DA's office, which I'm really proud of. Part of the DA's goal, any DA's goal, is to kind of combine the proactive with the reactive. What I mean by that is reactive is responding to crimes and prosecuting those who need to be prosecuted and put in jail. The proactive part is to try to prevent crimes through education and through other means. So recently we had a very successful victims' rights seminar and
it was an event that happened
yes.
here in Doña Ana County at Young Park,
and it was
which
awesome.
Brought together thousands of people to come and see what law enforcement and what resources crime victims have at their disposal.
That's correct. The goal was twofold. One, to celebrate and recognize and come in solidarity with those who are victims of crimes. Our second goal was to provide information for families and potential victims of crime in the future, how to handle things and what resources are available. We had over 50 participants, both private organizations and government organizations, and it went really well. I'm really proud of it.
Let's talk about issues that you've confronted in the last 5-6 years, or is it 5 years, that deal with crime in our community. How have you faced them forward?
Well, one of the unfortunate crimes that we're seeing, the trend here in Doña Ana County, is crimes against children. And that also relates to crimes against women. Now, that is a twofold, again, attack mode that we have. One, try to educate the offenders, and when we catch or encounter people who are inclined to abuse children and women, the first thing is to educate them, give them the counseling they need to prevent such crimes. But once the crimes are committed, that's our obligation to protect the victims and the children through either prosecution methods or diversionary programs. Prosecution is obvious, bring them to court. Through competent evidence, we convict them and recommend jail sentences. The other method is a diversionary program where they're arrested and we give them intense counseling and other methods of education to try to rehabilitate them and keep the family unit together. But that's very important when we can. So that's what we're seeing, and that's been our response to what we've been doing.
Let's talk about crime prevention among youth.
Yes, sir.
What resources have you made available to the community to help prevent crime prevention, to stop it from happening?
Okay, there is a direct correlation, no doubt, statistically proven, that truancy leads to gang affiliation leads to crime leads to jail, and then jail leads to a ruined life. That's a straight line effect. So we have ramped up our truancy program in coordination with the schools of Doña Ana County public school system. We are now prosecuting parents involved in juvenile delinquency. And
actual prosecuting?
Absolutely prosecuting them. And the last time I was in court, we probably prosecuted 14 individuals right now as we speak. The good thing about this is that most of the parents who are prosecuted admit and recognize they're doing something terribly wrong, and we give them the means after they're prosecuted to correct that. And so far, our success rate has been fairly good. And the public schools are very much involved, and they're very happy with the progress. We save 1 or 2 children, and we're doing great work. But our goal is to save every child and leave no child behind, as the saying goes. But I can't emphasize enough, the proactivity is really important, and the prosecutor needs to be more involved on that end and concentrate on that to prevent crime before it happens.
Again, let's stay with youth crime. You know,
Sure.
I have a 17-year-old daughter, I have a 6-year-old daughter, and it worries me to death knowing that she's out there among the youth, and, you know, we encourage her to keep things positive. But what do you say as a prosecutor to a parent that's got a child that just won't listen, that just doesn't get it through their head that they need to behave themselves? At what point do the parents just say, I give up?
Right. Now, I will mention too that, like you, I'm a father of a young boy, and I can see that potential problems could arise. What we've been trying to do is, through these organizations like the Victims' Rights seminar we just had, we try to make the community aware through our website and through partners throughout the community that there are resources that a parent can go to. Hey, we all know raising children is hard at any social economic level. So it's incumbent on me and my office and my partners in the community to say, listen folks, these things are normal, they happen, they're unfortunate, but there's remedies. And the remedy is get the training and counseling and information you need to make good and conscientious decisions. There are both counseling for the child and for the parent. There's no rule book to raise a child. You know,
There
we know
isn't.
that, right?
I walked
right.
out of the hospital with my baby.
There
They
you
said,
go.
Here's your baby. You're on your way. There was no instructions.
It's scary, isn't it?
It is very scary.
But I want to let you know, and the good folks of Doña Ana County, that we are blessed with multiple agencies that are free of charge that want to help. But the parent has to avail themselves to the services. They have to recognize the problem early, like you may possibly do it, or I in the future. Recognize the problem and then become aware of what's available, then utilize that program to help you and your child.
What other issues have you confronted that deal with crime in our community?
Well, the issue of law enforcement, and which we're lucky to have good law enforcement in Doña Ana County, but strengthening the bond and the roles that the DA and my prosecutors and law enforcement have, and integrate that to a successful prosecution team. You know, the DA's office is wholly dependent on evidence gathered by capable police officers. Without that, I can't prove a case beyond the reasonable doubt. So fine-tuning that process of getting the evidence collected and the proper presentation of the evidence at trial through testimony and physical evidence is a real challenge sometimes. And working on that has been one of my main goals, trying to work with LCPD, the Sheriff's Office, the State Police, and other agencies to make sure it's a cohesive kind of unit that we have going on to prevent crime and to be reactive to crime when it happens.
Let's talk about a recent addition to the District Attorney's office that I was very impressed to hear about, and that's the Veterans Court.
That is one of the most exciting projects that we're involved in. So necessary and so worth it. I'm proud to be even a small part of it. We've recognized through working with El Paso Veterans Court that there are, given our proximity to military bases, there are a lot of veterans here who are suffering from ailments and mental stress that they received as a direct result of being in the military.
You yourself are a veteran.
Yeah, I spent 4 years in the Air Force from 1976 to 1980. I'm very proud of that. But I had the good fortune of never being in combat, or never have to fire a round in anger or against an enemy. So I was very, very lucky. Unfortunately, recently, with the conflicts around the world, many soldier men and women have been under fire. And it's historically known that when you're under fire, the stress is unbelievable, and you bring some of that stress home back with you to the United States. Now, when a veteran commits a crime that is based on an illness that he contracted while in service for our country, Veterans Court is a diversionary program where it's not a get out of jail free card. I want to make that very clear. What it is an intensive program that instead of prosecuting the veteran through typical means, to going to court and providing evidence to a judge, it's individually modified and identified training and treatment for that individual that sometimes that's at least a year. Rigorous and mandatory results. In other words, you can't skip out. And if a judge tells you to do something,
This
you gotta do it.
is a court of law.
It's a court of law, but it's a smart court of law. It's not a punitive court of law. It's something that helps our community and helps the veteran. And once that veteran gets the training he needs and the counseling he needs, whether it be anger management, drug counseling, marriage counseling, violence counseling, then he has to demonstrate that he understands it and that those trainings have changed it or altered his outlook on life. Then they could graduate. Once he graduates in veteran court, the criminal charges are dismissed. The recidivism rate for Veterans Court is extremely low. The success rate very high. Veterans Court is a subsidiary of a mental health court, because most of the veterans suffer from some mental health issues. So after we establish a Veterans Court, we are going to work very hard to do a mental health court, a juvenile court, and the future of prosecution is diversionary programs. So the idea is that people who are violent, repeat offenders, who are bad people, they go to jail for as long as we can put them there. Most people make mistakes, and through counseling and understanding, tough counseling, once again, there's not just a pat on the butt. This is rigorous identification of what's wrong with them, and then setting up professionally trained and organized treatment. They can be reunited into the community and become productive members of our community, productive and loving parents, fathers, sisters, brothers.
Because a lot of these people they answered the call of duty.
Yes,
they answered
absolutely,
for our country,
yes.
And they come back, and a lot of them don't even realize that they're not themselves anymore.
That's why one of the requirements of Veterans Court is that your criminal activity must be somehow rooted to your time of service. Not like every veteran, you get a special pass.
Okay.
It's, did your cause of, or one of the possible causes of your criminal activity related to your service time? That's when you become eligible for the Veterans Court.
Let's talk about the mental health court. Again,
Yes.
it's another...
Same thing.
Something else that caught my attention, I know somebody that works in the mental health field, and she told me about this, and again, caught me by surprise. I was very impressed by that.
Now, both the Veterans Court and the Mental Health Court are wholly dependent on funding. And right now, across the state, our funding is very low. So they're not in full-blown implementation yet, and it may not be for months. We're going to take it one step at a time. But with regards to mental health court, when a person of limited mental capacity or suffering from some sort of traumatic brain injury commits a crime, to throw them in jail without any further treatment is just a waste of time. Because when they get out, the problem is not solved, and it's very likely they will be a repeat offender. By trying to address the problem either through counseling or medication, whatever the symptoms call for, and try as best we can to reintegrate that individual back into our community, it's a win-win for everybody. Now, that's not always possible, and we recognize the limitations. But if we can, again, like children, if we can save a few people, we're doing a really good job.
Let's talk about the types of cases that you see on a day in and day out basis. I would imagine you don't have a typical day.
No, and I have a fairly strong stomach, but when you look over an autopsy of a 4-year-old that was murdered, it's pretty horrific, and it can take a lot of toll. It takes its toll on you. And when you see senseless violence crime, and how what the impact on a victim of crime really is. It could ruin a person's whole life and the life of their family. If your family member is a victim of a violent crime that results in death, that person's gone and taken from that family a lot of times for senseless and no good reasons. Dealing with the family members is something I take great pride in. We have an excellent victims advocate group in my office. But the crimes I see range anywhere from shoplifting at the local store, the Walmart, to murder cases. We have currently about 20 murder cases on our docket. We have the case of the murdered police officer in Hatch. We have the case also recently where the officers from Santa Fe got into there was a accusation that one officer killed another officer. We have car theft. It
runs the gamut.
We have drug possession as well as
because we're living on the border. How much is that of an issue?
Well, it's always an issue, and it creates unique problems for law enforcement, because if somebody could come into the United States, commit a crime, then fade it back out, then they kind of escape the law. But we find that most of our crime is not done by outside people, not people from Mexico coming to commit our crimes. Most crimes are committed by people who live and work in Doña Ana County. Now, the potential is there, and that could flare up, but thus far my research, both in the federal system and the state system, tells me that most crimes are committed by people who live and work in and around Doña Ana County. There was a report recently, within the last couple of years, that was suggesting that people from El Paso were coming over and committing crimes and going back to avoid any kind of prosecution, but that turned out to be not really the case. But being informed on top of what I'm saying, we are fortunate to have a good police force that works their best. Sometimes I will honestly admit that we have our differences of opinion, and I voice those and they voice theirs. So there's communication back and forth. We can always improve and get better. And every day I'm suggesting that the DA's office improve their prosecution and the law enforcement improve their investigative techniques. But overall, we're lucky, because if you look north, west, south, east of us, we're probably situated as one of the safest communities around.
Let's talk about a real tough issue for you.
Yes, please.
The legislature.
Tough, very tough.
How is that going as a district attorney for a fairly large county? How do you go up to the legislature asking for more resources and them telling you they're not available?
My annual budget is approximately $5 million. Recently, my budget was reduced 3%. And anybody who's good at math could realize that's a significant amount of money. Our current budget is not enough to do what we need to do the most cost-effective way. It's just not enough. But I'm in a similar boat with the courts, the public defenders. When I left them, I went up to the legislature, and I don't blame them. They're hardworking people. They can't make the money out of thin air. I was told to expect no additional increases in my budget, and I would be very lucky if my budget wasn't reduced. I explained to them that I need more lawyers, I need more support staff, and I need money especially for our specialized programs that would change the face of this community. They agree with me. They were sympathetic, but when there's no money, there's no money. Now, why the budget's so important is because the judiciary, the public defender's office, and the DA's office, 3 legs of a 3-legged stool. You pull one of the legs out and we all suffer. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but a properly funded public defender's office and properly funded court makes my job so much easier. So I pray that oil and gas and revenues will rise, or our legislature and government body will find new methods and sources of income. But I will tell you without any fear of contradiction that the judiciary, the prosecutors, and the public defenders are in desperate need of additional money.
Let's look at your history with the district attorney's office. What's been the toughest case that you've had to prosecute?
Whenever you have a victim who was basically a well-loved member of a family in our community, and they lose their life to senseless violence. And I can name a few cases that applies to. And the vagrancies of trial work and prosecution, no matter what the evidence is, you can never assure yourself of a conviction, even when it's appropriate and just. And when the jury comes back, as it does on occasion, with a result you don't expect, or a result that's not good for the state, that's a heartbreaking situation. And how to explain to a parent of a deceased child, or when a husband is tragically killed and you have to explain to the wife what happened, those are the toughest cases. And we do that with compassion and with respect, but understanding that there are so many moving parts in a prosecution that you can't guarantee always the best results. However, we're very fortunate in my office to have a majority of good results and a minority of bad results.
What's the future for the Third Judicial Court?
I think the future for the Third Judicial Court and the DA's office and all prosecutions in general is they're moving away from criminal trials to move of diversionary programs. Once again, serious offenders need to be locked up, they go to trial, we convict them, we put them in jail, throw away the key. Most cases, we work through diversionary programs at the Veterans Court and try to rehabilitate these individuals back to normal members of our community. Makes the community happy, makes the individual happy.
Mark D'Antonio, I want to thank you very much for coming back to Fronteras of Changing America. And you have an open invitation anytime you want to come on.
Thank you, sir. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you very much for joining us on Fronteras of Changing America. I'm Edmundo Resendez.